morning, everyone. This is my watch list for Friday, March 20th. All right, so what happened yesterday? I mentioned after the sell-off on Wednesday, market would likely find demand at the 655 level. This was a previous 4-hour level. I mentioned this level, all right? So we did happen to bounce and hold that level all day and actually close somewhat strong into the afternoon. However, we are gapping back down into that demand. So the question is, do we hold the 655, which is the previous day low, or do we sell below it? Now, if we sell below it, my next level down is 652. Where does this level come from? Let's take a look at SPX, right? SPX daily time frame, and we can also see this on SPY. But this is a massive pivot from November, right? This is where the market came crashing down hard, and then we bounced immediately like a very strong bouncy ball off of that 65.20, right? You can look at it on SPY as well. You see this massive area of demand, bounce, right? This entire zone between 655 is my first level of demand, down to 652, which is actually that low from November, right? So if we lose 655, my next level down is 652. My question today is, do we hold 655 or 652? I want to preface by saying today is a quad witching day. What is a quad witching day? Quadruple witching, okay? It happens 4 times a year. It's a quarterly event when trillions of dollars worth of options and futures expire on the same day. These days typically give a lot of volatility, especially into the afternoon hours, right? So you really want to be sizing down on a day like today and manage risk well, all right? Keep your stops tight, all right? And we'll try to focus on quality setups, but don't go crazy on a day like today, on a quad witching day. It only happens 4 times a year, okay? So that's my watch on SPY. Do we hold 655? No, then we go to 652. Do we hold 652? No, then we can sell even 650 or lower, all right? But I want to see first, do we hold previous day low? All right, we hold previous day low, this could turn into a long-sided day. Again, we still haven't gotten rid of that 200-day SMA. If I can add here for a second, check that out. We actually closed right at the 200-day SMA yesterday. And there's typically quite a bit of action that happens around this 200-day before the market starts to sell off quite a bit. Now, this obviously depends on what happens over the next couple of days, okay? Let's see what happens with SPY. An even more obvious chart today is QQQ. QQQ, it's 587, right? It's 587. This was the low from yesterday. This is also the low pre-market today. This is also the low from back here, February 5, right? We zoom out to the 4-hour. Look how beautiful that level is, okay? If we lose 587, we're not finding demand until around 580, right? Which was this low from November. Remember this? I was showing this chart on SPY and SPX. You also have to look at the chart on QQQ, right? If we lose 587, this is gonna sell to 580, right? This is actually a better, cleaner looking chart than SPY today, right? This is such an obvious level right here, and twice bounces over the past 2 days off that 587, okay? So this is very clean and obvious. Are we above 587, bullish, below 587, bearish, okay? Now, let's take a look at a few individuals. Apple. I mentioned the 249 level yesterday. This wound up selling into like 247.50 and then kind of bounced and chopped around for the rest of the day. Now what you could watch today is simply a break below the previous day low and the pre-market low, which is 247. However, I want you guys to be a little bit careful with that, because remember I told you the next level of demand is 245, and this is a big level of demand. We bounced off it 3 times here in October and 3 times here in January, right? So you want to be careful shorting into that demand, and I actually may not take this trade today because of the fact that we're right next to that demand and buyers may come in aggressively, okay? Another name I'm watching, AMD. Look at this. AMD closed up 2.9% yesterday while the whole market was red, except for Palantir, which was the other bull-sided trade that I took yesterday, right? So AMD and Palantir wound up being the best long-sided trades all day, right? So AMD closed very strong. Guess what? It bounced off that demand I talked about in the pre-market yesterday. Bounced off that 192 area, okay? That was the low of day yesterday, and it reclaimed the 195, which was the other demand we had. It reclaimed the 195 and closed extremely strong, up 2.9%. So what could we watch on AMD today? What could we watch on AMD? We could watch a break over the previous day high. I mean, if we break over that 206, we're going to get immediate room into this previous high up here at 209. So that's a $3 upside move. And then if we break 209, there's nothing really stopping us until we get up here at 216. And that's really the final target for AMD. AMD has been a very strong name. Look at this chart. It still has a gap to fill on the daily above 220, all the way back up here to 235. All right. And if you'll notice something here, this is actually a bit of a triangle, like a downtrending triangle. But if we break above it, this can get Rip City, right? This can turn into Rip City above 206. This has potential to go to 216 in a single session, all right? Especially on a quad witching session. So I'm interested in this. Strongest name yesterday in a very weak market. Do we reclaim yesterday's high? Then we can rip. We get to 209 at least, which was the high from Wednesday. We break 209. I don't see anything stopping it. I don't see anything stopping this guy all the way up to 216. All right. That's AMD. That's a watch today. Amazon, it's breaking down. Remember I talked about the flag on the daily, right? You can still see the flag here. Flag, flag, flag. It's actually starting to break below this. And Brett caught a nice entry on this yesterday at the break below the flag at 209 off the previous day low. That was a great entry. I am still watching for the breakdown below 207, right? Breakdown below 207, especially if we lose previous day low at 206, this can turn into a very heavy sell-sided trade. This is weak with the market. We're now below this flag that I had talked about, right? If Amazon actually loses this 207, we're going into 202. We're going into this demand over here, 202, 203. That could be a nice $4 move on Amazon, okay? Google, not watching anything. Meta, I spoke about this yesterday. I spoke about this 610 level. Did I not? Right, 610, it broke down. It came all the way down to 602. I said it had room to 600, so that was pretty accurate, right? It made an $8 move. I spoke about the 610. However, Meta is now at demand. Meta's at 600 demand. I'm not touching Meta at this point, right? 600 loses. Let's see what our next level is. I could sell all the way down into the low 580s. I mean, 585, 580. That was our next level of demand below 600, okay? But at this point, you know, it looks a bit overextended to the sell side. It's been selling since 670. It may get a bounce off the 600 demand. It may get it's a keyhole number, so it may see a little bit of a liquidity sweep and reclaim. At this point, I'm not really interested in Meta. The trade was below 610 into 600. That was the trade, okay? Microsoft, Netflix, not watching anything on them. Nvidia, this is now in kind of another range, right? We broke below the 180. The 180 wound up rejecting yesterday, but it was so late in the afternoon that would have been hard to catch, right? This happened at 3:20 in the afternoon, 30 minutes before the close. This was I mentioned this. We could look for a pop in 180 and a failure. Right? You could have taken this trade, but it was just so late in the session, right? But now we're playing in a little bit of a limbo area. 180 and 176. Those are our, 180 is our supply, 176 is our demand. If we break below 176, we have 175, 174. There's just too much demand below here. I'm not really interested in taking short. The only thing I would be interested in maybe is a reclaim of 180. We reclaim 180, this stock actually could see a pushback into 182 or higher, okay? Let's talk about Palantir. This was a crazy entry yesterday. I actually got in when most people would not get in, okay? I got in as it was retesting VWAP down here at around 10:30. It was retesting VWAP, and I noticed something in the tape. I noticed that sellers were pulling their offers, right? They were pulling their offers, bids were stepping up, and I saw some aggressive buyers starting to hit the tape. And that made me want to long even into VWAP because I saw that the squeeze was building. All right, the action was getting slow. They were tightening. They were tightening and curling around VWAP. And I've been watching this name since yesterday, right? I've been watching Palantir since yesterday. I know how it moves. If you want to catch a squeeze on Palantir, you have to get the early entry, all right? So we did. We got the early entry. I was risking 50 cents. You know, my risk was 5% on this, and it wound up ripping all the way into previous day high, right? Almost previous day high at 156. We went all the way to 156. Previous day high was 156.50, all right? So Palantir is still, you know, breaking this bull flag. Do we get the move back into the 200 SMA at 163? Very possible, all right? But now at this point, if I'm going to trade Palantir again, I just needed to show me signs of squeeze, right? I needed to clear 156. I needed to clear 157, which was our high from Wednesday, or 156.70, right? I needed to start breaking levels and showing signs that we're going to get follow through with this bull flag, right? And if we get that today, I will trade Palantir again, all right? But I needed to, now it needs to break out. No more playing games. This needs to break over 157, right? Our highs from Tuesday and Wednesday, and just start ripping, right? In that case, I will trade Palantir again, okay? So that's my watch for Friday, March 20th. Hope this helps you guys. Looking forward to seeing everyone on live. Thanks for joining.